died, I think, in his early 40s.
Hello, everyone. We are going to do a quick 20-minute episode.
I can't be here for 20 minutes, but you guys can keep going if you want.
Okay.
I'm flying to San Francisco later today, but.
Okay, we're going to stay on as long as we can. Go ahead.
Okay. So do I start from the beginning?
Yeah, let's.
Okay. So I was thinking about the podcast I listened to this week, which I think for you guys probably a month ago, but you talked about you had met a couple and you had just befriended them, and you asked, how'd you guys meet? And she said, this is actually my second husband. But I'm very, but then I met my wonderful husband now, and I've always been basically happy.
So we're going to interrupt you, Kelly. Out. Yeah, we couldn't hear you. So what Kelly was saying is I had met this woman one day at breakfast, and she was telling me that this was her. I was like, how did you meet your husband? And she's like, oh, this is my second husband. She said my first husband passed away. So we missed that part. Go ahead, Kelly, from there.
Okay. And she said, yeah, I'm basically a happy person, and things have always worked out for me.
Because she had said, she was my first husband, passed away. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then she said, yeah, but it worked out fine. She goes, I've always been a happy person, and things always worked out well for me.
Mm-hmm. And I met this new wonderful guy.
Yeah.
And I thought of my great-grandmother, Collin's, and my great-grandmother, Grammy Westgate, who passed away, 30 years ago or so. And her husband passed away very suddenly, died, dropped dead of a heart attack. I think he was in like his early 40s, very, very young. Wow. And the rest of her life, she was angry, and she lived her life like, because my husband died, my life didn't go right, period. That's it. And through some mediumship and talking with her and getting messages from her over the past few years, she's very adamant. Guys, don't do that. Don't do what I did. And
wait, pause. So she's since passed. She has since transitioned. Mm-hmm. And in that interim from when she's transitioned to now, you have had communication with her via these different vehicles. And she has said, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Like live your life, be joyful. Don't do what I did. Because she said, I made myself miserable for 40 years or so. Like, it's not worth it. Live your life, So that's what I thought of, because I know, and I was at risk for that prior to hearing her message, that, if something goes bad, if I'm divorced, if I have a traumatic episode, if my mother has a stroke, my life didn't work out, period, end of story. There's no other chapter. There's no next line. And so that's what struck me about your story on that podcast, Stephanie. I was just like, wow, that's a really, that was a great choice that she made, to just say, I can continue living my life joyfully. It's okay.
And she was this beautiful woman that I was probably in my late 40s, maybe 50 at the time. She was maybe 10, 15 years older than me. Her energy was vibrant. I was in a good mood. My husband was in a good mood. We attracted this experience with these two beautiful souls, and had this, we literally spent like an hour and a half with these people we'd never met before, and just had these wonderful conversations. And she said that to me, and this is, years later, and I still remember it. I have it in my phone as a reminder to come up once a month. Like, this beautiful woman that I met at Kono said, I was just happy and things always worked out well for me. And I just remind that, I want to hear that and remember that, because I don't hear that come out of people's mouth very often.
Right.
And as you said, we have these life, we're human, life's going to happen. We don't know what we hope that's going to happen, but oftentimes that happens, and we just, and it is what it is. And so how do we follow that? I always like to tell people when I first start working with them, I'm going to help you create, like, connect to your inner power, and that you're going to have such a strong foundation that life can happen where before it would knock you to your knees and maybe take you
Mm.
out for a really long time, that will never ever happen to you again. You'll be like a weeble. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. It's like life will happen and you'll sway this or that, but you will never ever be knocked to your knees and stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful thing. She was obviously, like, whether she knew it or not at the time, she was practicing the art of allowing, and law of attraction was responding to her energy, and life just got, she had, like, we were talking about feelings in a previous episode to this, and I'm sure she experienced the pain of losing her husband. She was a single parent at that point then, and she was just like, okay, she pulled up her bootstraps and moved forward. I think she said she moved to LA. That's where her friend was, and then that's where she ended up happening to meet her present husband. But she just did not allow life to stop her dead in her tracks and end her life at that point, because she had this horrific thing happened where she lost her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we want to share with everyone, is like, we have a choice on what we think and how we feel. And yeah, life's going to happen. Feel the emotions, let them flow through you and out of you, and then move forward.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me, Wayne Dyer used to tell a story fairly often about he bought a home, I think it was in Maui in Hawaii, and loved it there. And people would move there and bump into him as strangers, and he would say, oh yeah, I've lived here for years, and they would ask him, what are the people like around here? And instead of telling them, he would just say, well, what are the people like where you just came from? And if they said, oh, they drive me crazy, everybody's like, frustrated and they're rude and all that stuff, and he's like, yep, that's pretty much how you're going to find it here too. But if someone else said, like, oh, the people where we used to live are great, we love them, like, everybody's good neighbors, everybody helps each other out, everybody's friendly and kind, and he's like, yeah, that's how they are around here too. I just used to love that story. It's like, the reality is, wherever you're living, the universe has infinite possibilities of, different things. And it's up to you to choose with your, thoughts, which create your feelings, which create your vibration. Like, what are you going to get out of that abundance? But people will say things like, I hear this all the time, like, oh, people in Boston are just like so mean and so cranky. And I've even said that sometimes, like, not mean, but that there is a crankiness there, but it's like, that's still there's still a bunch of really wonderful, happy, kind, people in Boston. Like, if you're an angry, frustrated person and you are dreading meeting frustrated, angry, mean people, if you go to Boston, you will meet all, the people you will meet will be the mean ones. But that would happen if you went to, somehow if you went to a small town in the middle of Iowa and you stopped at a gas station, you'd bump into the one person in that county who was mean
right?
and ornery, and
exactly.
like, that's just how it happens. So, like, somebody I overheard somebody yesterday talking about how in Los Angeles, like, they said something like they were cursed because they love Los Angeles, but the universe has cursed them because they can't ever afford the rent because LA is just too expensive. And I was just like, thinking in my mind, like, because I remember I was paying $800 a month, for this room for many years. And then I had to leave suddenly, and I wanted to get my own place. And I was looking at rents in Los Angeles for a 1-bedroom where I wanted to live. And it was like $1,400, $1,500, $1,600. And I was just like, my first thought was that belief, like, oh, like, I can't afford Los Angeles. And I just practiced the art of allowing, the law of attraction, and changed my vibration. And then I had some friends help me rework my budget, and we found the money to have this place that I love,
That's
so it's
awesome.
like, but the thing is, like, we get convinced that it's the world or the economy or the city or the people in that city or the ducks or whatever,
Whatever.
and it's like 99% of it is what we're thinking. It feels like it's the outside world, but it's actually our filters filtering that world in a certain way that makes us feel lousy. And if we can change the filters, which are thoughts, beliefs, how we're feeling, like your whole world can change. It really can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's taking our power back, right? We've given our power away to other people, places, and things. And it's like owning, like, oh, I can.
And it's not to say, like our great grandmother, like, again, if we're married and you're deeply in love and you care about somebody and they pass suddenly
it's
at a young age, there's going to be pain. And I really don't mean to minimize or discount or dismiss that in any way, shape, or form. But it is, it is up to you in terms of the rest of your life as to how are you going to think about that situation? How are you going to look at yourself as like, oh, the world did this awful thing to me, and I'm not capable of recovering, because again, that is a belief. That's a limiting belief. Then it's going to filter what the universe sends you, because it's like, oh, okay, well, if you want to be sad all the time, I guess I will just give you things that will make you sad if that's what you really want.
And I love that saying, fall down 7, get up 8.
Yeah.
So
I love it in The Secret, which Joe Vitale says, he's like, I know I'm going to get a lot of stuff, a lot of flack for this, but because, and I'm not saying you're a bad person for getting in the car accident, but you did attract the car accident. And it's hard. It's really hard, because somebody just got in a car accident.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
You don't want to say well, it's law of attraction. You should have had your vibration set. It's like, oh, out of here. But I mean, I met this person in Los Angeles, and she had been in 2 accidents a year for like 6 years or something like that. 3 of them, she was a pedestrian that got hit by a car. And I was just like, she told me this, and I was just like, and she's in multiple, like when I met her, she was in multiple lawsuits. She was still on all sorts of pain medications. She was recovering from multiple injuries from different accidents. But it's like, listening to her talk, it was like, and I'm not saying like somebody who's had that happen should just be sunny and bright and super happy, but like, she would say things like, yeah, well, the traffic is just so bad in Los Angeles, you can't help but get into accidents. And I've had that one. Like, my first year here, I was thinking, man, one of these days I'm going to get in an accident. And I did, And it's like, if I think, well, you've said this before, Stephanie, but it's really great. Like, if you have something that's really strong on a vibration like that, like you really believe that you're going to get into accidents, don't choose like, well, all right, I'm going to sit down and do affirmations and believe that I'm not going to get in an accident, because your vibration's too strong in the other direction. The good thing is that will help probably is just to think of other things. Like, don't put your attention on the accidents that you've had. Don't put your attentions on how crazy some drivers are in Los Angeles. Put your attention on how you love the beach and how you love to surf, or how you love sunrise in Los Angeles or the sunsets or whatever. Like, just put your attention elsewhere so that you're changing your energy.
And I think we can always, like, I know for myself, I can always look back when something has happened, something that I didn't really want, that didn't feel good or what have you, and kind of step back an hour, a half hour, whatever, and look at, oh, how was I feeling? What was I thinking? What was going on? And retrace it and go, oh yeah, I was really angry, or I was really upset, whatever. I had a lot of strong negative emotion, and then such and such happened. And so it wasn't like, oh, I was feeling good and then something horrible happened. Those are not, they're like on 2 different wavelengths, and they're not going to intersect. So
I caught myself last night. I was out for a walk and I was leaving Kelly a voicemail, and I caught myself because literally this wall behind me in my apartment, this divider wall, is getting destroyed this week. Some workers are coming and they're going to destroy the wall because the heater is very old and doesn't work anymore. So they have to like destroy the wall, take the old heater out, and they have to build a new wall with a new heater in it, because the new heater is going to have a different shape and all this other stuff, and different vents, whatever. And I was leaving Kelly a voicemail, and I was like, yeah, I'm a little concerned about this wall. Like, I hope these construction guys don't just like leave a mess and take forever and, you know, like all this stuff. And I caught myself. I was like, I was making these pictures in my mind of like,
right. We do that all the time.
Weeks and, you know, like my apartment in Tat. And I was like, oh, this can be like, it's not too late. Like they're not coming for a few more days. So I could be like, they're fast. They're great at what they do. The heater is wonderful. It's brand new. It works great. It looks wonderful in the apartment, like all those things. And now we will see that in the next episode. We'll see
I love it. Awesome. All right.
Cool.
Well, this was fun. Yay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us again, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay.
Was this a full episode? Do I need to do the whole closing, or is this a party bonus?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. That's all for this episode of Co-Creation Station. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts, thank you for listening. If you watch this on the YouTube channel, Co-Creation Station YouTube channel, thank you so much for watching. If you want to follow, like, subscribe, write us a review, whatever you want to do, we would really appreciate it. It helps us a lot. Stephanie, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
www.powerinjoy.com. POWERINJOY. I was like, where am I?
And I'm not going to spell mine, but Instagram is the best way to get in touch with me. It's at Collin_Daniels_Worster. And Kelly, you have a website as well? Yes.
I have a website. The best way to keep in touch with me is through my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/DrKellymAine.com. So it's Dr. Kelly Maine.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And thanks for listening and or watching. And we will see or hear you on the next episode of Co-Creation Station.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Oh, Stephanie, I made you the host, so you have to stop the recording.
Okay. Do we need to pause and do like 20 seconds of?
This is the 20 seconds.
Okay.